Let me be real here for a minute. We live in a world where everyone talks about being authentic and being true to themselves. But how many of us can truly say that we're living a life of intentionality and purpose? How many of us are actually living in integrity? We can say anything we want on social media and we can dress it up as much as we want, but is it true? How many of us are truly accountable to our actions, not just to others, but to ourselves? Hi, and welcome back to another episode. We see it everywhere. Politicians who are preaching honesty, using religion, but hide behind corruption and their own moral decay. Entrepreneurs and business owners who are drawing you into their business with this promise of people first, with this promise of putting the community first, putting our planet first. Even within our own communities, those that are advocating for change, but hesitate to take personal responsibility for their poor leadership. So today I want to cut through all of this crap because there's just too many of us that are falling for this trap of an illusionary world. The reason why this is so much easier now more than ever is because people do not take responsibilities for their action and they're not being held responsible for their actions. And we've totally lost integrity. So we're going to talk a little bit about what it really means to live with integrity, to take responsibility, and to hold yourself accountable. No excuses. Now, this is just my vantage point. I'm looking at this through my lens. So, as always, I welcome your comments and share with me in the comments below what your thoughts are about responsibility, accountability, and integrity. Because the truth is, if we're not living by these values, then what are we really contributing to the world? It's easy for us to look at others and judge and criticize for their actions. But like I always say, change starts with me. Now, this came up as I have been watching week after week, month after month, leaders use their charisma, their celebrity, and their power to serve their own personal needs and advancements. There are those that are actually building their empire and their bank accounts off the backs of people, exploiting people. And it's something that really comes up a lot in my accountability meetings. I've been meeting with an accountability partner for over 5 years now. And we're not just accountable to each other for reaching our goals, but we're accountable to how we reach them. The values that are in place that help to guide us towards their goals. Now, before we get started, I just want to talk first about the definition of responsibility, accountability, and integrity. I think the lines can be blurred, and I want us all to be on the same page. Responsibility is the foundation of trust, whether you're in a personal relationship or in a business relationship or just within your community, right? It's about taking ownership of what needs to be done and following through on it. Accountability it means being responsible for the outcome of your actions, whether that is a commitment that you've made to yourself or someone else, a decision, or a goal that you're working towards. And integrity means being honest and consistent in your actions, in your values, and your principles. And even when no one is watching, right? When no one is looking, you're going to do what you said you were going to do. You're aligning your words and your actions. So now let me paint a bigger picture here and talk a little bit about some examples around what this actually looks like. And I'm going to kick us off with a quote by Winston Churchill, where he says, "The price of greatness is responsibility." So as a leader, you are responsible for guiding your team towards a vision to empower and inspire them to also lead. And it is also your responsibility to ensure that the work is completed on time and it meets the standards that it's supposed to need to meet, and everything that they need to complete that goal or that task, you make sure that they have it. It also is about taking responsibility for your actions and your behaviors and owning that you did a thing and acknowledging it. And I think a challenge that we have right now in our society is that people are sometimes vilified for taking responsibility. We still shame them. And this discourages our leaders, especially when they make a public mistake, from taking responsibility because of the fear of the backlash. Another example of responsibility, but to self, would be that no matter what anyone else thinks or says, you take responsibility for something because it's the right thing to do. And the thing is, it won't be that difficult to do it if it's a part of your value system and you live by your value system. In a lot of ways, this ties closely to integrity, but you'll see how these three, the responsibility, accountability, and integrity, are really they're all related in a way. And this is why I wanted to talk about the three of them, right? So let's talk about accountability and what examples of accountability look like. And here's another quote by Courtney Lynch. Leaders inspire accountability through their ability to accept responsibility before they place blame. Okay, so that goes back to the earlier example that I used. So accountability goes hand in hand with responsibility, but it just takes it a step further. Accountability means that you are going to answer for the outcomes of your actions, and that this is not just about acknowledging the mistake or the behavior, but also owning the consequences, whether it's a positive or a negative. You want to acknowledge the impact that your actions or behaviors may have had on someone else. Now, this could also be something that looks like not following through on a project, right? To saying something that harmed someone. And I think that it's one thing to speak up and say, yes, I did this, I acknowledge it. And then it's another to say, but this is what I plan to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Now that shows integrity, because you're not hiding your mistake or your failure, but rather you're addressing it openly, and you go a step further and you want to correct it in some way. And remember, this all ties back to evolving, personal evolution. This is the key to evolving and growing as a person. We learn through taking responsibility and taking accountability. Now, let's talk about accountability to self. Let's say you are committed to improving your physical health. You want to lose some weight. I struggled with this for the past couple of weeks. Exercising 3 times a week and eating healthier. And as I traveled, I couldn't keep up with my schedule. And I ate what I said I wasn't going to eat. And I didn't commit to finding some ways to work out. And I gave the excuse of, oh, well, I'm traveling. But I could have found a way to stick to my plan. So you have to be able to be accountable to yourself, to be able to make those adjustments and to figure out, why is it that I didn't do a thing? And that's something that I had to sit with. I had to sit and reflect, understand, why was it that I didn't think that I could do, even if it was burpees, even if it was take a walk, right? Or push-ups or whatever it was. Like, there was no excuse. Really, I was just being lazy, and I was using that, and it was another form of self-sabotaging. Again, we don't want to go that deep with it because we don't want to get to the root, right? And this is what being accountable is. It means that You have to step back and ask yourself these questions if you're not being accountable to yourself, either yourself or someone else. And again, you can hire a health coach or a personal trainer, but no one is going to make you do it. There's only so much that they can do. So you have to be accountable to self first. And now, an example of integrity. And here's a quote. I don't know who said it, but I really like this. Integrity is choosing your thoughts and actions based on values rather than personal gain. Integrity is something that is sorely lacking these days. And we can see it in the videos that are being shared of someone being, they're being called out, right? They're not in integrity. They're showing you it. And they're saying one thing in public and behind closed doors, they're doing another. Most of us won't have that kind of public display, happen to us. So integrity really has to be a part of our personal value system, and it's something that we have to practice ourselves. But another one could be, and someone was telling me about this the other day, you're in a group setting and people started talking negatively about someone that and they made some racial overtures about this person. And you could sit there and you could stay silent and not speak up, or you can push back and you can challenge them and you can discourage that kind of talk. It's uncomfortable and it's unpopular, especially if it's around someone that you admire, you respect, or might be even your boss, right? There's a lot of fear around that people keep their mouths shut if they feel like the people who are doing the behavior, they have control over like their job, their income, whatever. But this is integrity in action as you uphold your principles, even under social pressure. Okay. But truly, integrity, if you look at this, it also includes the responsibility and the accountability. All three of those go together. Now, here's one that I was really thinking about when I think about the collective, right? And I think about collective movements. And there's this quote by Albert Einstein where he says, "Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters." So I want to broaden this even more, right? And let's just consider how these three values of integrity, responsibility, and accountability apply to collective movements. Integrity is crucial, right? It's not enough just to be vocal about, certain types of behaviors like racism, right? Or social justice. But I think what's important is we must act in a way that is also that's like a moral compass for our society also, right? Because people watch what you do, and especially if you are a part of a collective movement for a people, whether you're leading it or just a part of it, there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with that. And in that, you must be held accountable, right? And you must also be in integrity. Collectivism is built on this idea that we are stronger together. But for the collective movements to be effective, every individual must carry these values with them. So when one person acts without integrity, without responsibility, and without accountability, it weakens the whole. And we can see that in this country, right? Where the lack of integrity and accountability and responsibility for the overall leadership, what that does to the whole, right? So everyone has to be held to the same moral standards, right? So how do we put this into practice? All right. How do we align our personal values with integrity? How do we take responsibility, hold ourselves accountable in both personal and collective spaces? I'm going to ask you a series of questions that will help you process this through self-reflection. But don't worry about writing the questions down, because when you comment below, I am going to link to you a one sheet that I have for a daily self-reflection. And then you can do that at your own pace during your own time. But one question is, am I living in alignment with my core values? And a lot of us don't even know what our core values are. So you may need to sit down and even assess that. But if you value transparency, are you being open in your business and in your personal relationships, right? As a leader, if you value transparency from your team, are you also being open? If you value growth, are you truly pushing yourself to learn and evolve? An advice I just gave to a client is that if you work in an environment that is not conducive to growth, it is your responsibility to initiate the growth for yourself outside of that environment. You don't need anyone's permission to grow as a person, even if you aren't growing in your job title or role. The other question is, how do I take responsibility for myself, right? So, are you actively working towards your own personal and professional goals? Or are you waiting for someone to push you and motivate you? A couple of things that you can do is, build a system for tracking your responsibilities and accountabilities, especially if you have business goals, right? One of the easiest things that you can do right away is have a mentor or an accountability partner, right? And you guys have a set of values that guide you towards your goal, and you meet every week and you hold yourselves to those, right? And am I accountable for the results of my actions? And this is any action. So the things that I say, the things that I do, right? Owning up to when you're speaking, and you've harmed someone, when you've said something out of line, right? And are you owning the outcome of that? And not just, one of the things I say to people is, if you've done something to harm someone, it's not enough just to say, I'm sorry. But I even go as far as to say, can you forgive me? And this is what I'm going to do better, to be better, sort of thing, right? Again, it's not easy for us to step out in that way. We feel vulnerable. It is not easy for us to sit down and even reflect with ourselves, to go deep, to understand why we haven't owned up to the things that we've done, especially in a negative way. But it's important to our personal evolution. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Integrity, responsibility, and accountability are not just values that we talk about, they're values we live by. So whether you are an entrepreneur, business owner, a leader in your community, or just someone who's just looking to do better and grow personally, you have the power to choose how you show up. And remember, it's not just about you. It's about the impact that you will have on others and the collective. We are all connected in some way. So I want you to start reflecting on the questions that I'm going to share with you. How are you living in integrity? How are you taking responsibility? And how are you holding yourself accountable? Right? And feel free to share your reflections in the comment if you want, if something came up for you during this video. And let's start to have a conversation and just build a community that embodies these values. We need this so much today, now more than ever. We need to have a community and create a future where integrity, responsibility, and accountability are the foundations of everything that we do. So thank you so much for joining me again. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and to share this video if you found it helpful. See you again soon.